Hey, this is Ben
and Ross.
We are from Fenech-Soler and we are talking to EUPHORIA magazine. The band started, I guess it started quite slowly over quite a long period of time. So it's quite hard to actually put a date on when I guess it actually started. I think we did our first gig, the four of us, as Fenech-Soler in kind of 2009,
yeah.
Something like that, which is quite a long time ago.
Well, I think me and Ben and Dan were kind of like had our eye on writing electronic music a couple of years before that, but it took us a while to kind of know how to do that because we'd just been writing kind of indie music before that, and to get our head around how to record it and do that process and buy equipment and stuff. So yeah, probably 2 years of doing that, but then when we actually formed Fenech-Soler, and started to play gigs, it'd be around 2009, I reckon.
Aha! How did we choose the name? Sweet.
I think if you asked any band, coming up with a band name is not an easy thing to do, and you have to sign yourself up with something you're going to hopefully live with for a long time. And we weren't really sure what we wanted to call ourselves for a long time, and yeah, we just got to the point where I was just looking at Dan's driving license. So Dan's name's quite elaborate. We've kind of his name's Daniel Francis Chobutowski Fenech-Soler, so it's quite a full name, and we always like the sound of the Fenech-Soler part. And I was just looking at his driving license one time, and it was just like, oh, should we just call ourselves that? It sounds unique. And so we just went with it, kind of not really thinking it would ever really go that far, but yeah, stuck with it. We still like it, It's just,
yeah, we did it as a joke basically, and then things started kind of going quite well, and we were like, oh right, okay, cool, let's just go for it. So we met, obviously Ross and I are brothers, so we were making music, I guess, from quite an early age. That was kind of just part of family life for us, really, growing up. And Dan went to school, Ross went to school with Dan. These guys are a bit younger than me, and I remember I was at university and I came back and Ross said that they'd started a band, which I thought was, I just kind of laughed at, really. And it actually wasn't Fenech-Soler, it was a previous band. And so actually these two, Dan and Ross, kind of started the whole music making thing, and then I kind of joined the band on drums. And
you were doing like a Phil Collins type thing. When we first started, like, me and Dan were singing, but it was a really poor attempt at singing. So yeah, Ben was actually the only person who can actually sing in the family. So, but we needed a drummer, so Ben came back and jumped on the drums and did some vocals.
Yeah, and we actually met Andrew because we went to go and record a demo CD in our local studio, and Andy was like working there, and so that's how the four of us actually very first kind of met. It feels really good to finally get the record out here. It's basically an amalgamation of like both the albums that we've made as a band, and they've obviously both come out in the UK and Europe and stuff, and yeah, it's just something we wanted to do right from when we started the band, was actually release a record here. So it's nice to kind of finally get to the point where there's something out there on iTunes, and like I say, it's got stuff from the first and the second records, so it kind of really does feel like a cross-section of everything we are as a band. And so that's out there, and for us it's about just now kind of making new music, and we're actually using the time here while we're here to make some new things. But it's nice to have Rituals out in the shops. Is it in the shops? Maybe not. Is there any shops anymore?
Yeah,
maybe just iTunes. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think it's an amazing thing, especially because we're so far from home, and like Ben was saying, it's amazing to put music out over here, and I think we've always wanted to put music out over here, so to come over here and actually hear it on the radio and people playing it, it's just even weirder, It's great, absolutely amazing, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
It's something that kind of was happening for us in the UK, and that was always a nice thing. And so yeah, to be kind of driving along and then hear something you've kind of made in your your little tiny studio a long way from here, and it's kind of on the radio. It's awesome, really good. A live show is, I think we sound actually quite a bit different when we play live to how we are on record. We tend to finish making music, and then we kind of sit around and scratch our heads and go, well, how are we going to kind of play this live? That's how we've always made music, and so we tend to kind of deconstruct the track and tend to play things a lot heavier with a lot more energy. So I think naturally our shows are just more, I think probably more energetic and more kind of aggressive sounding than on records. But you know, like the visual element to our stage shows has always been something important to us. Live sound has always been really important to us as a band, and that's been something we've kind of been quite fanatical about, learning, touring with other bands and learning stuff as you go along. And so it's taken us a while. We feel like we've kind of got it down now, so it feels like we're coming to America having kind of done the practicing and knowing what we're doing. So
yeah, and we wanted to be like we predominantly play electronic music, but we want to play it live. We don't want to be like hunched over laptops, so it is a kind of full band performance. You know, there's full instruments in it, and we're moving around a bit. So yeah, my favourite is a track called Glow, just because, like we were saying about the energy, it comes at a good point in the set after a couple of songs where it's a bit more down tempo, and it just seems to have good energy, and people seem to, I don't know, it seems to bounce off between us and the crowd really well, I feel.
Yeah, I think actually like the whole kind of last 15 minutes or 20 minutes of our set is like, I like that whole, maybe because we're on the home stretch and it's like it's like
very nice.
not that I want to get it over and done with, more because I don't know, it just feels like you just get to that level and that kind of pace through the set. So tracks like All I Know and Stop and Stare and stuff all are and Glow actually is in that kind of last section. So that whole section is really good fun.
To be honest, and it wasn't my favourite show ever. I'm trying to think what that is, but we played our show in Manhattan about 3 nights ago, or a week ago, whenever it was. It was pretty amazing because we were like totally unsure if anyone was going to turn up, and it was just really cool to play in this city. It feels kind of, for us coming from London, and a small village where we grew up, playing here it's got a buzz around it, and it was packed out, and I don't know, for me that just felt like a bit of a moment. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Like, I think the 4 of us had the most fun on stage we've had this year, definitely. And
yeah, we kind of. I think we turned up. We were kind of down the backstage was downstairs, and we didn't really come upstairs until the show time, and then we thought it was going to be dead, and we walked out and it was busy. And I think that's always the nicest, as a nice feeling, you know, when people actually turn up to your shows when you're far away from home. Personally, my favourite song from the record is a track called Two Cities, which is probably the slowest song on the second album, but obviously is the kind of slowest song on this record that we released here. And I don't know, it came quite late on in the album writing process, and it just feels like, I don't know, lyrically and structure-wise and from a songwriting perspective, it just felt like an achievement. It actually wasn't the easiest one to write, and sometimes with songwriting, when it gets to that point where it could kind of go either way, it's quite hard to then see a song not turn into what you want it to. And with that one, it took a few days of messing around with, but then it did achieve what I wanted it to. So in that respect, yeah, that one I'd say. In terms of the lyrics, the opening track, a song called Youth, lyrically I really liked it because it was actually, that came from a lot of different songs, and there were all these kind of, I guess, images, but situations and just lyrics really that I wanted to get into a song. And we wrote Youth right at the end of it was like the last song we did, and they all just kind of came together, and without me really pushing it too hard, they all fitted, and it just created this story that I wasn't actually even really aware it was creating. And that was quite nice because I didn't have to think about it like that. And so the lyrics in Youth I'm quite proud of. I've always been a big fan of Bjork. I'd love to do something with her, but that would never happen.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Paul Epworth as a producer. I'd love to go in the studio with him because I think everything he touches just is amazing. That'd be a massive thing if we got to record an album with him.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of an American band called Mute Math, and they're not really well known in the UK, but I love all their records. I love everything they do. I think I just like their ethos as a band, and I like the way they make everything themselves. And I think Paul Meany, the singer's a great lyricist, and so like yeah, if I got the chance to like do anything with those guys, that'd be awesome. And also like there's a guy called Chris Thal who's a mandolin player, so in the kind of country bluegrass world, who has a band called Punch Brothers, but I've loved their stuff for a long time, so probably Mute Math and Chris Thal.
I'm still really enjoying the Dan Kroll album. I think that's really good. I kind of just been listening to that quite solidly. What else have we listened to?
I really like Marabou State. There's a couple of producers from London that are just making some really kind of forward-thinking electronic music. Really love all their stuff. Who else has been on repeat? I mean, I know it's like a really big album and they're a massive band, but I quite liked actually both the Arctic Monkeys and the Queens of the Stone Age records. I thought those two. That's kind of, I know Dan loves both those records, so whenever
I've always been a kind of fan of Arctic Monkeys, but it's only this album that I've actually really got into them. I liked all their stuff and I never had a problem, but I would never like put it on my iPod, that really. But until this album, I was like, it's completely changed my perspective of them. Guilty pleasure, I mean, I watch a lot of stuff like on my iPad when I should probably be doing stuff like emails and other things. So that's kind of, I feel a bit guilty about that, but I don't know, it's worth it, I think.
Yeah, there's like a conversation that I tend to instigate on long journeys, which is I basically pick two countries and then ask someone to decide, to pick a country, and whichever country they pick, they have to eat the food from that country for the rest of their life, every meal. Which is actually a really interesting conversation because you can pick Scotland, Wales, for instance, or you could go for the big hitters of Italy, France, which a lot of people go for Italy. No, I'm not going to offend anyone, no. But that's a stupid conversation that we tend to have all the time.
So then, Mexico or Turkey?
Oh, question: Mexico versus Turkey. That's good. That's a good question.
Just, I think I don't know. I would say there's more variety, but then I probably don't know enough about the cuisine. But I don't know. There's so many dishes that I love. But I do love Turkish food.
I'm going to say Turkish food because I actually eat quite a bit of Turkish food. I go to lots of Turkish restaurants in London, and it's amazing. So, but we're off to California soon, so I'm guessing Mexican food will be on the menu. I guess I don't know. When we were growing up, without trying to sound cheesy or anything, I actually quite idolised what my dad had done and what our dad had done in music. And he would tell us stories of he played kind of like country and kind of bluegrass music, but back in the late 70s, early 80s, and we lived in America for a bit, and he toured with. Sorry, you weren't born, but he toured with people like Tammy Wynette and Charlie Pride, and played with Dolly Parton and people like that. And so, I guess that was kind of an inspiration, I think, for wanting to like get into music and make music. So
yeah, we kind of grew up going around like lots of kind of country bluegrass festivals most of the summers and just getting into that. And
so we started an electronic band.
Yeah, so we just did the opposite. Oh, that's easy for me. Oh, Vice. Well, Fear is definitely heights. Like that is straight up. I can't. Ben saying he was a pilot earlier. I'm the opposite again. Yeah, I hate flying. He has to calm me down every time we fly, and that's annoying. Or booze, that normally helps. You can do Vice, and all we're doing one.
Oh, what's my biggest vice? I don't know. I guess that's quite a tricky one. That's a really hard question.
The Vice goes with that. The booze.
I guess probably is. Yeah, maybe booze, but then I don't know. That sounds like a bit rock and roll. But on tour, it's quite hard. It's quite hard not to drink. Can the camera note that Ross is drinking and I'm drinking Coke? So there we go. Go to drink.
I'll be really boring. Mine is just beer normally, and then gin and tonic if we're feeling.
I've kind of since being in New York for the last week quite like the pickleback. So it's like a shot of.
You've had like one.
No, I haven't actually.
You like that one?
I actually haven't. I've had more than that, and it's actually it's a shot of whiskey and then a shot of pickle juice. It's quite nice.
The microphone's create a song out of that.
Yeah.
Sample it. You send us this, we'll sample it.